What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Accelerate Your Life podcast. I am your host, Mallory Marks. Solo episode today, guys. I'm very excited for this episode because I have so many thoughts on this topic. And I just feel like it's going to be one of those episodes where I finish recording and I'm like, oh, mic drop, killed that, crushed that. Now, I will say I did not prep much for this because I have so many thoughts around this topic and these six mistakes that I see people make that I just wanted. Like, I'm an overthinker, and if I try to like write out all the things I'm gonna say, then I almost like overwhelm myself. And I'm like, you know what? I just want to have a conversation with you guys. I just want to chat about it. I want it to be like somebody literally just asked me, Mallory, what mistakes do you see? And I'm on the fly here. I'm on the fly coming up with what I would say. So, with all that being said, I foresee me going on some rambles here. I foresee me maybe needing some seconds to think. So bear with me, but I think it's going to be for the best because you're going to get my true thoughts. And honestly, when we get usually my like true thoughts and I don't prep a lot, that's where a lot of those passion tangents come that you guys love. So yeah, that's my preface for this. But I wanted to do this episode of diving into the top six 2025 fitness mistakes. I predict, I guess the what I predict will be the top six fitness mistakes of 2025. And these are based off of, let me give you my credentials here of why I have the right to make this prediction of these being the top six mistakes. First of all, we have worked with over 1,000 clients at this point in our last 4 years of Accelerate Athletics existence. So I've seen a lot of different clients' case studies. I feel like I have a lot of data to go off of. I have been through this myself. I have made all of these mistakes myself. And having now worked with the population of women, I mean, we do work with lots of different people, but I would say predominantly because this was kind of my story as well and where I come from and when I'm so passionate about helping is those women who it's not that health and fitness is brand new to them. In fact, they've oftentimes been over obsessed with it and have a negative relationship with it because they put themselves on they put so much pressure on themselves to look a certain way, to feel a certain way, to be a certain way. And they've created this, negative relationship with food. They're scared of it. They are obsessed with always seeing the scale go down, getting leaner, etc. And they're doing they're doing too much of a lot of things to get there, right? And that is where that's kind of where my story comes from. And so that's again a lot of the population we work with is people who are, they're not far away, they don't have a ton of weight to lose, but they do not feel good where they are and they're spinning their wheels doing a lot of maybe the wrong things or too much of things or just adding too much stress to their body where they can't see the change they want, or they're blinded by diet culture and so they're chasing the wrong goals with the wrong methods, but they don't know anything other than just this idea of losing weight when in reality that might not be their goal, which I'm kind of jumping ahead of some of the mistakes I see. But all of that to say, these six mistakes that I'm predicting here, these are the six mistakes that I foresee the majority of women in that position making. Okay. And I don't want you guys to make that. So that's why I wanted to do this episode. I wanted to draw attention to some of these early in the year too, because a lot of people are obviously on their health and fitness kick, right? Of wanting to make some great changes. But before we get too far in it and before these mistakes are made, and then before people get frustrated and give up early, which we are right around Quitter's Day. If you didn't know, Quitter's Day is usually day 19 of anybody's health and fitness journey. So January 19th is a big Quitter's Day. So right before this comes out, I wanted to do this episode so that you guys can see, are you making these mistakes? Is that maybe why you're feeling like you're not getting anywhere? Let's fix that so that you can be super successful with your health and fitness journey, feel confident, and change the negative relationship you might have with a lot of this. So without further ado, let's dive into the top six fitness mistakes of 2025. I predict will be the top six fitness mistakes. And I'm going to give you some advice on what you should do instead and how to not make them. Okay. Mistake number one that I see people make, and I predict many people will continue to make this year, is not understanding what their goal actually is. Or another way I could say this is they're chasing the wrong goal. And I'm just going to there's really one major example that comes to mind, especially for the types of clients we tend to work with. And this is that everybody seems to be chasing a weight loss goal. Everybody seems to be chasing wanting to see the scale go down. And oftentimes, when I ask a further question of, okay, why is losing 5 more pounds your goal? Why is losing 10 more pounds your goal? Why is losing 20 more pounds their goal? Your goal. They usually answer, I just want to be more lean and toned. I just want to see, my muscle definition. I just want to look like I work out. I want to look like all the effort I put in. And I mean, oftentimes the phrase I hear the most is, I want to look toned. I want to look more toned, right? Now, looking toned and losing weight are not always the same thing, or the way to get to looking toned is not always losing weight. But I think because, especially as women, we have grown up in a society, very diet culture focused, always kind of talked about weight loss and always made it seem like smaller is better and losing weight is the goal. And I think just has made us feel like any goal we have regarding our body that where we have like a body composition goal, which by the way is totally fine to have. It is totally okay to want to change your body. I'm not looking for somebody to say, "Oh, I just want to feel better. I don't care what I look like. I just want to feel better." No, no, no. You are allowed to say, "I want to look better." But not every body composition goal requires the scale going down or the scale going down is the solution. Okay. But I think we've been programmed to think that. Like we as women have been programmed to think if I have a body composition goal, a measure of progress is seeing the scale go down. I should want to see the scale go down. And this is just not true. Okay. Because if your goal is to be more toned, first of all, toned is not a real thing. Okay. Toned means having muscle and then being lean enough to see that muscle definition. Like tone is referring to seeing muscle definition and the shape that muscle gives your body. You cannot be toned without having built muscle or having a foundation of muscle. Okay. And there for a lot of women, this part has not been done, which is a mistake in itself. We're going to get to a little bit later in the list. But if we want to address that part and we need to build muscle, you're probably not going to see the scale go down at that point in time. Muscle has weight, okay? So if we need to build muscle to have that tone, we don't want to see the scale go down. And so what happens here is women chase, how do I get scale go down? How do I get scale go down? How do I get scale go down? And so and we know, I mean, if you want to get scale go down, calorie deficit, like, I mean, yeah, just eat less, right? And so they'll do this and they'll see the scale go down and they're like, why don't I look the way I want to look? I still look kind of skinny fat. I still look kind of flabby, but just like on a smaller scale. Well, it's because again, seeing the scale go down is not your goal. Your goal is to build lean muscle. Your goal, like, and again, I think people just automatically think that their goal is weight loss if they have a body composition goal. And so that is the mistake, is not understanding your goal is actually to get toned, which is different and requires a different input, a different method than weight loss. If you are somebody who does have 50 pounds of fat to lose, maybe you've been, super like unhealthy and had bad habits your whole life, then yes, we probably need to see the scale go down. But if you're somebody, I'll tell you the population that this really, really probably applies to is if you're somebody who finds yourself saying, if I just lost that last 5 to 10 pounds, I'd be happy. Most of the time, I'd say 95% of the time, if somebody has a 5 to 10 pound weight loss goal, they don't need to lose 5 to 10 pounds. They actually need to build muscle mass. Okay. That's usually what it is they feel like they're definitely like they're skinny fat. They usually are people who resonate with the skinny fat and they just assume a little more weight loss would get them there. And it's no, it's like you are under muscled. You're not overweighted. You're not over fat. You're under muscled. And so we need to do that, which again requires a different input. That requires lifting weights, eating enough protein, eating enough calories, and probably not seeing the scale go down because, again, if we need to add muscle because you're under muscled, that has weight. Okay. So, anyway, I think I could ramble on that and try to say this 100 ways to Friday, but hopefully that makes sense. Again, the mistake is not understanding what the goal is. So, um, you need to understand like if you're there's maybe a micro goal needed to achieve your macro goal, and if your macro goal is getting toned, your micro goal is that you need to build muscle again, which isn't seeing the scale go down. So understand what your goal is, understand the input that goes into that, and it's a different strategy for getting toned, building muscle, getting stronger than losing weight. Okay. And I just see so many women focus on the scale go down, but they're chasing a goal that seeing the scale go down doesn't align with, and so they just get stuck in this in between where neither is happening, and they're like, I'm confused, like why am I not feeling the way I want to feel when I'm doing this? So mistake number one, don't do that. Understand your goal, understand what the actual strategy is for that goal, and focus on that. Okay. Mistake number two that I predict many will have in 2025, and I have seen many make for a long time, is not fully committing to either a building muscle phase or fully committing to a cutting phase. I cannot emphasize enough the amount of people that I talk to who are like, I just don't know if I should cut or if I should build. I know I'm probably under eating, but then I get afraid to overeat. And look, I did this myself too, because once you understand the first mistake we just talked about, right? Once you, and this is for people who are a little bit further along and do finally get the concept of, oh, okay, like to get to that toned body that I want, I need to build muscle and then lose body fat, right? And they finally get this. Now, what I think like needs to be understood and still is understood by some of these people, they're just then afraid to commit either way, but is that it's very, very difficult to do both those things at the same time. It's very difficult to build muscle and lose body fat at the same time because building muscle requires additional calories most of the time, or at least eating at your maintenance calories, and high protein and lifting weights. Okay. But the key thing is having enough food because your body's going to always prioritize all the other things it needs to do, digestion, your typical just day-to-day movements, just keeping you alive, etc., before it goes into building muscle. It has to have a really good, damn good reason to build muscle. And one of those things is it needs to have the extra fuel to go towards that. So this is why we typically need to eat at minimum maintenance, ideally even a little bit of a surplus when we are intentionally trying to build muscle. Now, how do we, lose body fat, cut body fat? Typically, we need to be in a calorie deficit. So those two are competing things. So especially when you're at a little bit of a higher level with your fitness, or I won't say higher level, but like you're somebody who we're, again, not like we're not trying to lose 30 pounds plus pounds, like we are trying to recomp your body. You oftentimes need to separate these phases and go through a muscle building phase so that you have the muscle definition to then see when you do cut. So it takes these periods of time, nutritional periods, which I've done. I think I've done a podcast episode about that before. I'll try to find it and link it in the show notes, but you have to understand nutritional periodization. Okay. But what ends up happening is that women are afraid of building. They're afraid of lean bulking. They're afraid of doing it. I don't know. There's a lot of different reasons. They're either afraid of doing it wrong. They're afraid of gaining weight. They still have that relationship with the scale where they're just like, man, I don't want to see it go up or not even go up because you're not always seeing it go up. But oftentimes they're just so focused on everybody wants to cut. Everybody wants to cut, cut, cut. Everybody wants to see the scale go down. Everybody wants to be lean. I get it, okay? But you are never going to have the outcome that you want from a cut phase if you do not spend time building. But again, what I see happen is they're just like, they can't commit to either. They're like, okay, I'm gonna build. I'm so excited. Yes, let's do it. Let's build a shelf. Let's build some glutes. Let's freaking eat. Let's freaking lift. And then they do that for like a week. The scale goes up a pound. They freak out and they're like, oh, never mind. I want to cut. I want to cut. And so then they shift back to cutting. They put themselves in a calorie deficit and either nothing's happening or they like, listen to another podcast or fitness Instagram influencer that's like talking about bulking and they're like, oh yeah, okay, I should do that. Yeah, I need to build. I need to build. And then they go back and like it's a ping pong back and forth of never truly committing to either because of whatever it is, fear, just a desire and impatience to cut. And I say this all from somebody who did this. I spent my entire ages like 21 and 22 going back and forth because I would like read something online or see something online. And I'd be like, okay, like, and when it finally started to click for me in my fitness journey and I got over the fact of like, okay, calorie deficit. And like, I began to learn, oh, okay, like you need to eat enough to build. It all made sense to me. And so I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go through a build. Can't wait. Let's bulk. Let's build some muscle. And then, but my relationship with the scale and my body was still not healed. And so the second I would see it flip or the second I would have a bad body image day, I'm like, never mind. I want to go cut. And then again, like I would cut for a few days and I would either I would then see another social media post that made me want to shift back. And like, you just never get anywhere. And so like, when you cannot commit to either, you're never seeing progress on either side. So anyway, I feel like I've talked that I talked that to death. That point probably didn't need as much of that explanation. You guys get the point. But you need to commit to nutritional periodization. You need to commit to a lean bulk phase, okay? That's probably everybody's a little bit different, but like you probably need to commit to at least like 8 to 16 weeks of that. Then commit to a cut phase. Probably, I mean, you can do, I mean, mini cuts, like 4 to 16 weeks of that. Commit, okay? If you just continually ping pong back and forth, you are never going to see the progress of either. And especially if you keep shifting towards just a cut, you're gonna, well, I'm getting into point three here. So anyway, let me pause. All right. Not committing to building or cutting. Don't do that. Commit. Do it. Which brings me to mistake number three, that I was kind of starting to get into there, which is not building at all. Okay. So we just talked about again, like understanding that we need to build, we need to cut, going through those phases. But so many people will just not understand or just skip altogether the fact that you need to go through a build phase. And this kind of goes back to mistake number one of like not understanding what their goal is. And they always just chase a calorie deficit. And so then again, they lose the weight, the scale goes down, and they're like, why do I still not look toned and good? Because you never built. Okay. You never committed to a building phase. So the mistake of just never going through a time where your intention is to build muscle mass, you're going to be in a world of disappointment when you lose weight. There was actually, I want to kind of find it. Coach Megan posted something on, actually, let me see if I can find it. Hold on, because I want to read it verbatim. Okay, I found it. This was just a super simple statement that she sent in our group chat, our client group chat a couple weeks ago. That was just perfect. No amount of fat loss is going to produce the look you want without a base of muscle, period. That's it. No amount of fat loss is going to produce the look you want without a base of muscle, period. Okay, so what is that saying is it is a mistake to not go through a phase of building that muscle because you are never going to have the foundation and look that you want without that. So what constitutes going through a building phase? Again, we have to nutritionally have enough of the fuel of the tools to do that. Okay, I always like to say that you're trying to build your body, right? And building your body is like building a house. You have two parts of trying to build a house, build anything, right? You've got the blueprint that actually tells us what we should be building. And then you also have the tools that actually put it together. The blueprint is like the workout side of things that sends the signal to your body of what you're trying to do. I mentioned this analogy on other podcasts before, when I've talked about cardio and I've talked about lifting. Like cardio, that sends a certain signal to your body of what you're trying to build. You're trying to build endurance. Lifting weights, that sends a certain signal to your body of what you're trying to build. It says you're trying to build muscle. Okay, so we need to go through a phase where the blueprint is really focused on building muscle, and the tools, right, the nutrition that actually brings that blueprint to life has to be right. Okay, and the tools for building is extra calories, extra protein, and that's really it. Okay, but obviously, as you can imagine, women get scared to do this, but you have to understand this. You've got to go through a building phase. You're never going to want to be or you're never going to be where you want to be. So that's mistake number three I'll see people make, not building at all. Don't do that. Okay. Mistake number four, it's not focusing on the nutrition side at all. All right, great. So they got the blueprint in place. They're crushing it in the gym. I see this all the time, especially with this population of women that I'm talking about, is they are killing themselves in the gym. Okay. They're going to maybe they're going to all their workout classes. They're going to the gym. They're, lifting weights. They're progressively overloading. They're rocking it. All right. But I don't want to say they're not focusing on the nutrition side. For some, that is the case. They're still maybe in that mentality of like, I'm working hard so I can do whatever I want, or they're trying to focus on the nutrition side, but they're not, again, understanding the right way to do that. So they're maybe eating healthy. I hear this all the time. I'm eating healthy. I don't understand what the problem is. Okay, there's a difference between healthy and optimal. And what we want, and what I mean by that is like healthy foods, like maybe you're eating tons of salads, you're eating lots of fruits and veggies, you're eating protein, all of that good stuff. But if you are not eating them in the right quantities for what your goal is, you're not building what you want. You don't have the right tools. Okay. Like salads, broccoli. I always use broccoli. Broccoli, super healthy, right? Lots of nutrients. However, if you ate just 2,000 calories of broccoli, you are not going to build what you want to build because it is missing the right amount of protein. Also, maybe 2,000 calories isn't right for you. So it doesn't matter no, okay, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. It does matter what foods you fill these things with, but we need a combination of healthy and optimal. So optimal would mean understanding not just, how, like, all broccoli, but like how many calories do you need? Is it actually 2000 or is it 2200? Is it 1800? Okay, how much protein do you need? All of those things. And then being able to make healthy, nutritious choices that fill those optimal numbers for you. Okay, that's what I think is a big mistake and thing that people left out is they don't understand how to dial in the nutrition side to bring the blueprint of everything they're doing in the gym to life. More often than not, again, especially with this population, people are eating like a bunny rabbit. They're trying to build, they're trying to get toned, they're crushing it in the gym, they're lifting lots of weights, and then they're freaking eating 1,200 calories. What do you think is fueling those workouts in the gym? Where do you think those muscles are going to be built from? Like it's not just the signal. It has to be built from calories, from tools. They're not just built out of thin air. So eating like a bunny rabbit, eating like a toddler is such a mistake I see people make when they're trying to build their body. It has to be built with something. We need tools, okay? So not focusing on the nutrition side, huge mistake. Okay, we're rocking and rolling. I have two more mistakes that I see people make. And the next one, since let's stick with the nutrition component here. The next mistake I see people make is not spending time or effort to use a food scale. This one is going to annoy some people because I know there's people listening and they're like, seriously, like you're really telling me I need to weigh out all my food. That seems extreme. That seems whatever, which is so funny to me because it's so normalized to use measuring cups, to bake with measuring cups, to cook with measuring cups, to follow recipes that have certain amounts of ingredients and measure them out. I don't understand why measuring our food with a food scale to like fuel ourselves. Like let's think of ourselves as a recipe, right? We're trying to make our body, build our body. It takes certain amounts of ingredients, the same way that baking bread requires 1 cup of flour, we require 1 cup of whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why it's so stigmatized to measure what we're giving ourselves. I mean, we're the most important recipe there is. Honestly, I just came up with that like analogy of us being a recipe on this podcast. I feel like that was pretty damn good. But anyway, all of that to say, it is the same thing as using measuring cups. It's just more efficient and cleaner. You don't have to weigh, you don't have to clean any measuring cups. So I just have to come off with that little tangent here for this point to start because I feel like it is so stigmatized and like looked as like an obsessive thing, and it's no different. But anyway, my point though of why I think not spending time using a food scale is a mistake is because especially in a day and age where things are processed, we don't know how to listen to our hunger cues anymore because a lot of the foods we're eating unfortunately aren't real. Even if we are people who are eating like a predominantly whole foods diet, we're pretty healthy, we're humans and we're living in this earth, and I would be completely lying if I said I didn't eat and indulge in processed foods, honestly every day. Like there's things that we don't think of as processed foods because we think of them as like healthy, like protein bars, right? Those are processed and they don't like have the same effect on our hunger cues that we were designed to have with like things that actually literally grow from this earth. So all of that to say, we're in a day and age where we can't just rely on our hunger cues full on to tell us how much we need, when to eat, when to stop, because we're not really eating full real foods, right? So I think a food scale is extremely important to learn and understand portion sizes, at least for a period of time. This doesn't have to be done forever, but if you have never done this, I think that's a mistake. And I think you need to learn what portions look like, what your body needs, when we go back to figuring out the nutrition side and like what's optimal for you, right? Now you have to spend time learning, okay, well, what does that look like? If I need 2000 calories, what is, that amount in protein of chicken that I need look like weighing that out and seeing that eventually gets to a point where you can be more intuitive and you can know if you've eaten enough, if you've not without using a food scale. So that's a big reason I think that's a mistake not to. Another big reason is if you have specific goals, if you are somebody that, the population that I've been really talking to in this episode, where again, we're trying to maybe like you think you need to lose 5 to 10 pounds, probably not really that, but like you are not that far away from your goal, right? We're kind of trying to take your physique to the next level. It does take dialing in a little bit more, okay? And being more like, being in a calorie deficit if we're going through a cut, like we don't want to be in these giant calorie deficits, probably like 250 calories. And that's really easy to overdo or underdo if we're not actually weighing out portion sizes and we're just kind of eyeballing. It's really easy. You can literally undo an intentional 250 calorie deficit by over scooping a little bit of peanut butter. Like a tablespoon of peanut butter is 100 calories, right? So that I think it's just important again to for accuracy's sake. If you have specific body goals, if you're going through a build or if you're going through a cut, those are the times to definitely make sure you're being most accurate. So a mistake, not using food scale, do it for a period of time. Here's when I would recommend using one. If you are in a cut or a build, I know people are like in a build or like still, it's important because you need to make sure you're eating enough. A tendency for this population, if they're not tracking or using a food scale, is to actually undereat because there's this subconscious mindset of being, afraid to eat or thinking less is better. And so I see it all the time. So using a food scale, if you have an intentional cut or build goals, or you are brand new to paying attention to your nutrition and you need to have a better understanding of portions, all of that good stuff. Those are the times to use a food scale. After you've used it for, I mean, everybody's different, but I'd say like 3 to 5 months, you might be in a position to begin to not use it for everything and you understand portion size a little bit better, but it needs to be done. Okay. Last mistake I see people make is not having a strategy for training. As again, especially this population, oftentimes you guys are working out, like you're doing your best, you're going to your classes, you're going to the gym, you're running, whatever, but it's just kind of random. There's not a lot of intentional strategy behind why you're doing what you're doing, the signal you're trying to send to your body. So remember how a few minutes ago I said, building your body is like building a house. The blueprint matters, okay? The signal that you're sending in the gym and or what you're doing with your workouts matters, okay? So like moving your body is great if you just want to be healthy and active. Like I don't care what you do. Go play sports, go run, go do a random workout in the gym every time. Like that's fine. But you have to understand that that's not necessarily sending a specific signal to your body. If we want to be toned, again, that means building muscle. If we want to build muscle, we need to really give our body a damn good reason, which the proven over so much research, science, everything out there has shown that the best way to do that is with having a strategic training program, something where you're following the same program day over day, week over week. So maybe like if you have a 4-day split, 5-day split, whatever, like obviously every day within that week might be different, but week over week, you then like your day one is the same, your day two is the same, and to allow an opportunity for what we call progressive overload. So week over week, doing the same exercise and trying to increase the intensity or the load, increase the weight, increase the reps. This after like the body continuously sees yourself doing the same exercise and trying and telling it needs to get better, it will adapt and it will be like, oh, I have to adapt, right? This is why there's a big problem. I have a big problem with like group fitness classes is a big lure of them is that they're always different, right? They're always exciting, which yeah, I get that that can be more fun and you won't be as bored, but it's not the best for actually reaching this physical goal. Because if you are doing like bicep curls 1 week and then not doing them again for 4 weeks, why the hell would your biceps be like, oh, I need to get bigger. Like it wasn't told over and over again. It needs to get stronger. So that's why it's important to not just do random YouTube workouts, not just do random, like it changes every time, like have strategy to it. There's also even strategy more so within that. Like for everybody's different and we need to know for you, like what's the right amount of volume for you? What's the right intensity for you? What's the right like workout split for you? There again, just having a strategy behind this expedites the process immensely. Okay. So that's a mistake I see people make is they're active, they're great, they're like going all the time, but it's not really strategic and it's just not the right blueprint to really get them where they want to go. So that is everything. And then, well, I'm sure there's many more, but those are really, I think, the top 6 mistakes that I see people make. I've seen people make, I've made myself, and I do think are still going to be very prevalent in 2025 that I want you to not make. And I hope this gave you some things to think about. So to recap, okay, and think about this. If you do any of these, think about this. But number one, not understanding what your goal actually is and chasing the wrong goal. Or yeah, I'll leave that at that. Number two, not committing to a build or a cut and bopping back and forth between both and never getting either. I feel like I'm not speaking English. Never getting either, never getting anywhere. Number three, never actually building at all, just never committing to a build. Big mistake. Number four, not focusing on the nutrition side, specifically crushing it in the gym, but eating like a bunny rabbit and not giving yourself anything fuel-wise to reach the goals. Or you're like eating healthy, but you're not eating optimal amounts, etc. Number five, not using a food scale. You guys obviously got my opinion on that. And number six, not having a strategy with training. Make sure you do have that. So again, if you're listening to this and any of those, you're like, I don't know if I'm doing that. I don't know. That might apply to me, or shoot, yeah, I'm definitely doing that, but I don't know how to like mentally break it. That is where I think having a coach can be extremely helpful. We know, a lot of this is some of these are a matter of like you just you don't know the how, you don't know the actual right strategy. Like literally maybe with the training, right? You're like, okay, well, I don't know what my workout strategy should look like. Or I don't know how to use a food scale, right? But some of these are maybe how to do it, but the mental block there is huge. Like focusing on the nutrition side, potentially eating more, not eating like a bunny rabbit. It's easy for you to go be like, okay, a calorie calculator said I should eat more, but the actual doing it and not being afraid, that's a big component that I think sometimes you need somebody to help you through. So the link is below in the show notes. If you think having a coach, having somebody help you with the strategy, with the mental side, breaking through a lot of these mistakes would be helpful, you can apply for coaching there. But otherwise, I hope that this podcast just served for you as a mental place to start and hold yourself accountable to not making these mistakes in 2025. So thanks for listening, guys. Whew, this was a good one. I need to rest my throat after that one. I went on some passion tangents, but I appreciate y'all listening. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you on the flip. Bye.